welcome back to One Winning Pod. We're going to talk about the upcoming game against the Giants, but before we do that, we first got to look at the playoff picture. Now the Ravens had their bye. A bunch of other teams were able to, play their games this week while we got to sit at our couch. And let's talk about it. I think the first thing, we should probably talk about Steelers. Obviously, beat the Browns. Browns couldn't help us out. Jameis couldn't help us out. So the path to the division still looking a little bit bleak. It's not impossible. Ravens can still, take the division, but it's looking quite a bit more difficult.
100%. Yeah, I mean, the division race, that didn't go great on Sunday. We were hoping the Browns could, strike pay dirt a second time. But unfortunately, while I think the Lord did deliver Jameis from a pick six, I don't think he threw a pick six. I might be wrong on that. But unfortunately, the Browns were not able to dial up any snow for this game. And that greatly, impacted their performance in Pittsburgh. So that didn't go the Ravens' way. But ironically, something that did go the Ravens' way, which was kind of hard to swallow because we tired of the Chiefs winning all these games, but by the fact that they did knock off the Chargers, the Ravens are in control of the 5 seed right now, thanks to their win head-to-head against the Chargers. They also have the head-to-head win against the Broncos. All three of those teams are 8-5 right now, as it stands. So that is a silver lining, that the Ravens at least have control there, because as it stands right now, you get Houston if you're the 5 seed, or Indianapolis if they go on a run and Houston implodes. That there's a small chance of that happening, not a big one, but we'll see how the Ravens do against Houston in a couple of weeks. But right now, Houston, they're a talented team, but just, a lot of inconsistency right now. Certainly a matchup you'd want in the first round over Buffalo or Pittsburgh right now.
For sure. I took a look down the net point lane before the show, which isn't particularly interesting, but the Texans, man, are just not a good team. They only have 20 net points, even though they're 8-5. In contrast, same record here, and we're at 65 net points. The Chargers are at 70 net points. Broncos 71, all with the same record. So it's one of those things where the 4 seed feels worse than basically any of the current wildcard teams. Thankful, I guess, that the Chiefs have the horseshoe so far up their butt that they ended up winning with that not double doink, but the doink of high margin doink. I couldn't believe that thing, man. I never seen it so square of a doink. And it just, that was good for us, though. Like you said, helped us kind of stay in the driver's seat for the 5th seed. And then you look at the chances of winning the division; they didn't really move at all over this last week. It was kind of implied that the Steelers were probably going to beat the Browns there, and they still have a 30%, 35% chance of winning the division per the betting sites, and I think even a better chance than that in reality, because it really just comes down to your confidence level of the Ravens being the Steelers. I think if we can take care of business and beat the Steelers, the rest might play itself out. Obviously, we can't give away a game, like, for instance, against the Giants in this hypothetical. But with them playing the Chiefs and then playing the Eagles, these are 2 teams that I feel have a good chance of being able to beat them, particularly the Chiefs, because, they did a deal with the devil, apparently. And we'll see them, block a punt at the end of the game. Or something silly to turn it around. So, yeah, I like our chances, but at the end of the day, I really am happy to see that their playoff chances are still very secure. The 5th seed is a route, and frankly, might be the best route if we're just being completely honest. Obviously, you like a home game, but you probably play a harder opponent than the Texans. So,
I mean, probably not, though. I mean, they would play either the Chargers or the Broncos more than likely, unless the Bengals or the Dolphins go on a run, right? So those are both teams that, they beat easily this year. Round 2 could be harder, of course, but the Chargers, they're more beat up than they were when we played them. Bo Nix, as good as year as he's had, he's still a rookie. So I think I'd still rather have the 3 seed, but I do hear what you're saying. Yeah, I think honestly the Ravens are set up good if they take care of business. If they don't take care of business, then we've got it gets scary for them. But win out, and like you said, either get the 5th seed, or if Pittsburgh loses one other game, then you get the division.
Yeah, I mean the good news, it looks like beyond the Broncos, I mean you're at the Colts and Dolphins at 6 and 7, so obviously we don't play them this year, so I don't know how the tiebreaker scenarios would work, but I mean we're at least a game ahead of those guys. So yeah, it doesn't feel good, I think, to drop another game at this rate. We've already dropped far too many. The Raiders and the Browns game earlier this season really just kind of leave a sour taste for us. But yeah, no, I mean we're definitely in a good spot right now. It's just yeah, it's a little bit different. Just last couple of years, always gunning for the division and being able to get it for the years that at least we've been pretty good. So, but yeah, we'll see. This team, like, they've done the win the division, they've done the get the first round bye, and mixed results. I think I think a lot of people would say it probably hasn't done too much. So, at least in the early Harbaugh days, the path to the wild card was kind of like our MO. We'd always win at least a game. So we'll see. Yeah, I think the first thing we got to do is to obviously take care of business against the Giants. So I don't know if we want to pivot over now to it, or we want to talk about the bye first. See if any new news come out of that. What do you guys think?
Well, some news kind of came, I guess. It's at least new news since we recorded last. But yeah, we certainly hope that Rashad Bateman will be able to play in this game. He's obviously had a very strong season for the Ravens, has been emerging as a deep threat. Lamar's been going to him more in critical situations. Still a couple more drops than we'd like, but, a lot of good progress from him this year. But if he's not there, then it's going to be Tylan Wallace or more of Aguilar, right? Because Deontay Johnson, man, of all the outcomes that could have happened when we traded for this guy, it certainly seems like we're seeing, the absolute worst that we would have wanted to, especially with the information that's coming out of him. He won't be playing in this game against the Giants, just like he didn't play against the Eagles, except instead of that game being his decision, this time it's going to be the Ravens' decision.
Correct. I don't think any of us had on our bingo card that he didn't want to go in the game. We discussed coaching staff choosing not to, but I guess it does it does kind of make sense when the story came out. I believed it because they didn't have any proof of not wanting to use him, right? They always use him a little bit, and particularly in a situation where Rashad couldn't go the whole game, there were snaps to be had. So really an interesting situation. I don't know how he recovers from it, but it seems like there might be a chance. My hypothesis is that he'll remain on the roster and either salvage the relationship or just be inactive. But I think the last thing they want to do is, let's say the Chiefs pick him up because, of course, right? Like some contender picks him up, gets some intel on us, and maybe even a receiver that does something for them. Excuse me, just doesn't seem like it's really worth it unless he's like a huge cancer. So, and I don't think that's the case. That's the thing that's super strange about it all. Like Lamar was saying that we need him out there. I don't know if that tune has changed, but it seems like there might be a little bit of support in the locker room or people trying to get him on board. So I suppose we'll see, but a very disappointing situation and something that I just didn't see happening, but is just another story in the storyline of problems in this locker room all year.
Yeah, well, to your point about not seeing it, and our other guys with their, I think I think interviewed Zay and Bate, and they asked them hey, is Deontay a problem? They said no, basically like when he's ready to go, we'd be more than happy to have him. So yeah, I mean I kind of agree with you. It seems like the locker room still wants to give him a chance, and or at least that's what they're saying. So yeah, I mean we'll see, but certainly yeah, and a game that against the Eagles where you're like, why are Wallace and Aguilar getting so many snaps out here? It would have been really helpful to have him, especially with Kohler's injury too. It's like you already have Andrews and likely playing a ton of snaps already. So yeah, we'll see. Again, it's a good thing I think to beat on the Giants. Like, for a game where you don't need him, like it's probably one of the best ones. Although the Giants' pass defense is pretty good, like they have a lot of other issues. We'll talk about it, but yeah, it's certainly interesting. I feel like we also have to mention too, in terms of the locker room stuff. We kind of talked about it last week, but I think even I think it was Jeff Z asked Harbaugh basically of hey, do you see there being like a locker room issue, because it seems like this isn't the first one, and it seems like Harbs is very adamantly like, no, we don't have an issue. So I feel it helps a little bit having had that conversation last week with us, that it seems like that's the case. But obviously everybody can come up with their own decisions and draw whatever conclusions they will. But I think it was good at least to kind of hear a little bit more information about it, and it seems like it's kind of like a one-off thing.
Players who have experienced big roles on previous teams will always struggle if they're not getting that same role on another team. I shouldn't say always, but a lot of them will. Like multiple people have mentioned Aguilar last year and this year as kind of like the poster child for vet who used to be a bigger part of offenses, had bigger roles, and has come in here and just been like, what do you need me to do, coach? Right. But I think it's got to be hard for these guys, right? To know, or at least think they know, that they can still do what they've been able to do their entire football lives, and then they're just asked to take a much smaller role. I mean, he was getting fed the ball as the number one target in Carolina. A lot of it was garbage time, but still, those were still targets.
Yeah, so. I mean, and their season turned around since they got rid of him. I don't think it's exactly that, but it has been. I mean, they were very competitive against the Eagles. They've been winning some games. They've been, playing a little bit better.
Bryce Young, man, I hope he's for real, because you always want to see players do well, right? I don't care. He was hyped up to be this guy. He hasn't been this guy, to say the least. And man, if you actually watch the games and not just look at the box scores are modest, but you actually watch the tape, he's showing some flashes, man. He might actually be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes me happy for my dynasty shares too. But I also agree with you, man. And particularly, like, you think about like the future quarterbacks coming through. I mean, one of the biggest problems with him is his height. Everyone was like, is he 5'11", staying fully straight, or is he 6? How much does he weigh? This is a profile that never hits. Like, it's one of those things, like maybe another guy would be considered, because if the NFL wants to expand and make even more teams, which I really hope they don't. I think they have a huge quarterback problem already, so like imagine, 4 more starting quarterbacks out there. So you want to see more candidates, I guess, that have eligibility to play these positions in all aspects of the field. So you want to see some success stories, but I hope they don't expand, because I think they're at a really nice number as far as having talent distribution goes.
I was gonna say the quarterbacks are one thing, but like offensive line, like
yeah, exactly. Left tackle is the next example. Like
yeah,
there's like 3 good ones.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, speaking of quarterback problems, this opponent that the Ravens will be playing, good golly, they have not been able to find a starting quarterback since Eli Manning retired back in 2019. And we don't even know who's going to be starting in this game. Daniel Jones, he's gone. He's in Minnesota. Tommy DeVito played, got hurt, didn't do too well. Drew Lock came in, played, got hurt, didn't do too well. And at least what I've seen today, there's question of which of these guys is going to be under center for this game. Lock might be healthy enough to go, but also, why would the Giants play him? DeVito's younger, he'll be cheaper to re-sign. What are they gained to play Lock, except if they think that he'll get him the higher draft pick, right? So, yeah, I mean, when we're looking at this matchup, that's the first thing. The Giants, man, this team doesn't even know who's starting for them at quarterback. And I don't even think that's the only position they don't know who's starting, because they have a slew of injuries on this team.
Yeah, man. I was just watching some film with the Giants against the Bucks, and that was DeVito, one of his games that he was playing. And my goodness, yeah, I think so much wrong, I think, with their offense. And I mean, quarterback, I think, is one part of it, but yeah, I mean, you look at DeVito and like, his stats are just not that good, not really throwing for a ton of touchdowns. Picks are kind of low, but even the completions around like 50, under 60%. Locke, similar thing, man. Last two games he's been playing, like they were both losses for the Giants. It's only thrown two interceptions, 0 touchdowns. And game against the Saints, 21 for 49. Like, ouch. Like that completion percentage, really, really bad. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Either way, I think the Ravens are going to be in a really good matchup. We'll talk about it, but I think no matter who the quarterback is going to play, though, offensive line, oh my goodness, yeah. You talk about injuries and talk about performance on there. Like, my God, their offensive line is so bad.
I mean, I don't think we can accept bold predictions on sacks unless it's double digits, because if you look at their depth chart, it's all red. It's ridiculous. Illuminor is hurt. John Runyon is hurt. And then John Michael Schmitz Jr. hurt.
Well, their starting left tackle, Andrew Thomas, has been on IR for
the whole
for quite
year,
some
pretty
time.
much. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
he's actually good. He's actually a good player.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all red, man. Even though the players that they were playing just last week, you look at their injury status, and they announced 6 players is out already on Monday. Drew Lock is questionable, but trending towards playing. I mean, it's just bad. DJ Davidson went on defensive line. He's on injured reserve at linebacker, injured reserve at tight end. Theo Johnson, I'm not going to get to see him. Dexter Lawrence, injured reserve, defensive tackle. I mean, it's just everybody's on injured reserve, man. Like Ojulari, every name that you know, injured reserve. Andrew Thomas, like you said, injured reserve. I mean, this is sad. I mean, hey, actually, that's a storyline right there. We got to get out of there healthy. MetLife Field, we know about that field. It's a terrible field. I wanted them to win the game. I think that's like almost the most important thing. But health is like very closely second, particularly mattering on who. It's not good, man. That field. This injury report should be enough. I don't know where they got hurt, but I'm gonna just assume it was MetLife. Like they need to get rid of that field. Ugh. They gotta go wide receiver though. He's back from his concussion.
Back from concussion, but fighting through some interesting hip injury, right? That he got in practice last week. I think he played through it last week. But yeah, I mean, Malik Neighbors, man, was he taken off before that injury? You got to wonder if Danny Dimes would still be there if not for that. I feel like the concussion really slowed that momentum. I mean, he was on a record pace. Gosh, I mean, you see how Brock Bowers has taken off this year. Already beaten Sam Laporta's record that he set last year for most receptions by a rookie tight end. Leading the league in receptions right now is Brock Bowers. I think he's like 5th in receiving yards. Neighbors would be right up there with him, I think, if he hadn't gotten hurt. That just seemed to mess up with his timing, mess up the rapport he was getting with the offense. He was uncoverable there for those first couple games. And I think we agree. I mean, there's no reason that even as bad as the quarterbacks are, they're throwing it to him. If the Ravens don't play lockdown, defense on the back end, or at least the improved defense they've been playing these past couple of weeks, yeah, there's a chance Neighbors could burn this secondary. That's one of their few paths the Giants have to making this game interesting.
Yeah, dude, Neighbors is just so good. Like you said, able to get open pretty much on any play. Pretty good hands, and just a guy who can, just excellent in space that can make people miss. I fully believe he's going to be a really good player. Already is a pretty good player. It's really just unfortunate. It's almost kind of like the Saquon situation, right? Where just he's a really good player and just on a roster that has so many holes, and you can only see so much of the talent that he has. But yeah, it's going to be one where man, if you got to have Wiggins and Marlowe on him pretty much all game. It doesn't really matter where he's going to line up, but you got to account for him. It's one of those things, man. You just look at him playing and just against all the other players on the offense, you're just this guy is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Right. I think I'm a big believer of I guess the Belichick mindset of we're going to not let you win by this guy. And that for me would be Malik Neighbors. I respect Tyrone Tracy. I think he's a decent running back, but he has a fumbling problem, and he seems like he's always on the razor's edge of being, benched again if he does something like that. So to me, it's like Neighbors, you're not going to get benched. Obviously, like unless he's got hurt or something, but I don't want him stopping us. Always find him on the field. Do what you need to do to shift your coverage towards him. He should not be a factor. If Wan'Dale Robinson and Slayton can beat us, so be it. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Not worried about Bellinger. I'm not worried about Drew Lock, or Tommy DeVito like running around or something. The only thing I'm worried about is stopping Malik Neighbors, and I think our run defense is good enough that they can slow down Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary as an ancillary problem.
We're gonna play a quick game here. Quick game. All right, so you guys are contestants here. Quickly name me 3 teams that have scored more points this year than the New York Giants have. All right, game's over. Because here's
hold on,
the thing.
3 teams that have scored more, or scored less?
Scored more.
Wait, more than the Giants
on offense?
Yeah, more than the
Pretty
Giants offense. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, almost...
It's a game you can't lose. Name an NFL team that is not the New York Giants. They've scored more points than the Giants have this year, and it's not even close. They've scored 194 points this year. The closest team to them is the New England Patriots at 221. Their offense is abysmal. Like, we talk about games, and sometimes there's games that are trap games, right? We talk about games, and sometimes there's games where it's just like, okay, it's any Sunday. These are world-class players. Like, surely they can put together something and win this game, and you can at least respect that, they're a competent football team. If the Ravens lose this game, it is completely on them. This late in the season against this incompetent of an offense, their defense is decent. We'll get there. But this offense has no business scoring more points than the Ravens in any game. I don't care if they recruit the Steelers defense. Like this, if the Ravens can't outscore these guys off a bye week, man,
I would just
we're
say
in trouble.
I would almost say they shouldn't score more in a quarter than we score all game, or like all game. We should score more in a quarter than they do all game. Is what I had to say.
That way, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, they had it backwards.
No, I mixed that up. Yeah, no. It's one of those things. Like they should not score. It'd be cool to get a 0 finally on the sheet, because they really shouldn't. I think if you take away public enemy number 1, Neighbors, I don't see him getting down the field. I don't see him getting more than a couple first downs in any given drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Darius Slayton is a guy who every now and then can pop off. Wan'Dale works well underneath, but yeah, these are also guys. Those two. I mean, maybe Jalen Hyatt finally breaks out. But these are guys that you need a talented quarterback to unlock them, right? They're not going to raise the play of the quarterback who's throwing it to them. It's the other way around, right? So, yeah, and man, I did take in a little bit of Giants content today, and listen to a self-proclaimed Giants fan optimist just completely list off everything wrong with the team and sound incredibly defeated. Apparently, literally someone bought a plane before the game and flew over, like whatever the owner's name is, like fixed this dumpster fire or something like that and flew it on the tail of the plane.
Goodness.
Flew it over MetLife.
Well, yeah, I think it was one of the reporters who asked Neighbors, like, do you know anything about that? And he's like, I didn't buy the plane.
Oh man.
Maybe a Danny Dimes. Maybe that was his parting gift to the fans.
There you go. It's part of his millions of dollars contract. I know we didn't comment on the first week of Hard Knocks that was released for the Ravens, but I did watch all of the Hard Knocks for the Giants this year in the off season, and I do remember reporting to you there was like a single person on that organization that I felt was competent, and I stand by that after this year. Her talent evaluation was pretty solid because her draft class ain't too shabby this particular year, but everything else is just not it, Chief. Like that it was a train wreck waiting to happen, man. It really was. Should we go to the defense?
I think we should. Yeah, this is the more interesting side of the ball. And yeah, I mean, I think up front we got to say this is a solid unit. Like if the Giants had a competent offense, like say you still had Saquon back there, and you had, I mean, honestly, maybe just Saquon back there, right? Because you put Saquon in that offense with Danny Dimes playing quarterback at some level, and you got Neighbors out there. Like that's probably a slightly below league average offense that could, put this team hovering around 500. This defense, they're stingy against the pass. Now, they have given up some pretty big games on the ground, but they've also had their games where they've been able to clog the holes, just like this past Sunday against the Saints. A lot of us thought that it was time to bet those Kamara overs and he was going to run all over them. They contained Kamara, to their credit. But at the same time, while this defense is pretty solid, it's not good enough to do what Cleveland did to us, to do what the Raiders did, slow the offense down enough to let the defense catch up. Excuse me, the Giants offense catch up. But I do think that this is a side of the ball the Ravens do need to respect and understand that, if they take it easy, like it's going to be a pushover, they might have a rougher time than otherwise.
Right. I mean, you look at the pass rush, I think that's the biggest piece of it. Brian Burns from Carolina, he's a sack artist, a very good player. And then Kayvon Thibodeau, who in 22 was top of many draft boards, fell to them and has played quite well. Also, is able to generate sacks. I think those are the two guys I want to keep a number one eye on, make sure they don't mess up the game and wreck the game. I think if we're able to contain them and give Lamar time in the pocket, that'll be I'm not too worried about their secondary, particularly given the injuries that they're currently dealing with.
Yeah, the Dexter Lawrence being on IR is a huge blessing for the Ravens. That guy's a monster. I remember playing, what was it, like 2020, 21, last time we played the Giants. I mean, he was just a wrecking machine. Really disruptive guy on the interior, 9 sacks. He's on IR. So, yeah, he's going to be a huge loss for them. As far as our outside linebacker guys, like, yeah, I think they're okay. Burns is definitely a good player. Although I did watch, part of that game against the Bucks where the Giants forced a fumble at the goal line, and it was literally at like Burns's foot. He had no idea. He like didn't even like go down to like go, and like Baker picked up the ball and was able to recover it and gain a yard. Like, what are you doing? How do you have that bad awareness for that? I don't know if it was just like that play or anything, but like, man, I haven't seen that before. But yeah, I think they got some other guys too. Thibodeau, like you mentioned, Alex is a good player. Mikey McFadden, I've been seeing a lot of him too. He's a tackling machine. I can't say that he's probably one of the better linebackers in the league, but I mean he's going to be all over the field. I think just tackling guys. So keep an eye on him. Don't want to have him force a fumble or something like that. So
A real oddity of this defense this year. They had an interception off David Carr. Did I say David Carr? I meant Derek Carr.
Derek Carr.
Sheesh. Yeah. Is it not his brother David? Derek Carr. And it was the first pick that they've had since week 1 of this year, which is insane. Wow. They had not had a pick against a team this year since the Vikings, who were already up 28-6 in week 1. Darnold threw a deep one, and it didn't go well. So, yeah, I mean, a team that's struggling with the takeaway. So, if the Ravens are able to play smart, that you're going to win the turnover battle in this game. Beat up on the secondary, like you guys said. I think there's some guys there. You watch the tape. Sometimes a guy like Cordell Flott, Adoree Jackson, they'll make a play, a pass deflection. I think they made some plays in these games, but I think the thing with this secondary is just twofold. If the Ravens attack them consistently, I think eventually they're going to break. But also, I'm just looking at the formations these guys play. A lot of nickel, a lot of the linebackers way off the line of scrimmage. I'm just seeing a massive, massive holes here for Derrick Henry. I know Kamara wasn't able to do it last week, but I just looking at this defense, and I think Henry's going to have a field day against these guys.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And like you said, Peter, because they're so beaten up in the secondary, I think you're going to have the opportunity to they're going to be worried about that downfield. They might be, playing back a little bit, giving their corners a little bit more help, and then that lanes up the box and allows Henry to run even better. So I do believe this will be an opportunity for the Ravens to flex the pick your poison offense, score some points, get some confidence back. It really feels like a get right game on all accounts. I do believe that they should be able to pick apart this defense. I think that our defense should be able to completely stall their offense. And to be honest with you, I think it's an interesting conversation to be had given the defensive woes that they have and our special teams issues and the field position game, I think, being very important. Like, I never want to give them a short field because that just feels like a recipe to give them cheap points that they don't deserve. I think you might change your strategy as far as field goal kicking in general. I might punt it in situations where I'm comfortably ahead. Just let them have it deep. I might go for it, but the last thing I want to do is kick anything like 47 and above and give them good field position. Honestly, if it's a miss, I don't think it's worth it, man.
Fascinating. So I actually have the opposite idea, and I actually almost think that the Ravens should go for no touchdowns in this game and just let Tucker kick the heck of the ball out here and just, get as many game reps as he can. Because, again, this is a game where, we're expecting the Ravens should be able to win comfortably. Why go for touchdowns if you don't need them? Just give your kicker, a chance to regain his confidence. Now, I think I'm being a little. Hey, look, man. But let's put this within reason, right? Because obviously the Ravens are going to go for touchdowns. And honestly, if I'm being serious here, I don't want them to just kick field goals. Like, oh, you're at the 5-yard line. All right, well, let's, Tucker needs his practice instead of running in with Henry here on first down. Let's just go to the field goal right away. But I do think that the Ravens should be looking for opportunities to give Tucker at least one kick above 45 yards in this game. If that means you're 4th and 2 and you're up by 10, instead of going for it, which maybe we do in a game against this a tighter game, we've had a lot of success with the 4th down calls. That's a well-oiled machine. What's not a well-oiled machine right now? Unfortunately, Tucker, right? So, I mean, I hear what you're saying too. Maybe there's the argument of, okay, well, maybe he's tired. That could be part of it, having a hard time managing his body now that it's older. So maybe we do want to give him a rest. Maybe that helps. I don't know. But, I think that it's certainly something that the Ravens, I have to imagine, are putting a lot of thought into. And it'll be interesting to see, game flow will obviously determine part of it. But if there are situations where they have a choice of kicking or going for it, seeing what they pick will be interesting.
Maybe here's an option. We scored our 5th touchdown of the day. Life's good. We haven't kicked a field goal yet. False start to make it like a 53-yard extra point.
50-yard extra point. There we go.
It's low stakes. It's only 1 point swing.
Nothing would be more damning of like a whole situation than like we're intentionally moving us back.
There's a 0% chance that the Ravens actually intentionally do that. That would be so.
Of course, yeah, no.
No, I know. Would be fun though.
It would be fun.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope that the game is as much of a laugher as we're predicting it, to be right here, because
I'll be laughing either way, man. If they lose,
that is true.
Team. Like,
that is true. Yeah,
there's no excuse. I don't think they even have to play Lamar. Like, I think you could rest Lamar. Like, he's not touching this stupid field. He chose not to go in, and we promote him. Instead of giving him a game suspension. Like, I truly think you should be able to win with Johnson out there. Like, this is just not. It's not.
Oh, I agree. I guess my point is, it's the NFL, and we've been going this before. Like, the Ravens are gonna roll the Raiders, and the Browns. They're Browns. Oh, who cares about the Browns? They suck. And
the only NFC team that has ever beaten us is the Giants.
I know, right? And you can't say it was when they
Since
had a good
Lamar era.
quarterback.
How about that?
Well, until last week.
Right,
Now
yeah.
that stat's over. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Correspondent
that's right.
K-Fish
You're
was not present to see his dream come true.
Yeah.
The stat of Daniel Jones being the only NFC quarterback to beat Lamar is no longer
That's
no
right.
longer
I
a
forgot
thing.
about that. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Well, at least Hurts is like a reasonable quarterback.
Sort of. Not really this year. It's mainly the Saquon show, but
Yeah.
that's not salty me talking. That's just like,
Yeah.
look at the stats, man. Under 200 yards the last couple weeks. But he's a good quarterback, though.
Yeah, that was a big headline coming out of the game against Carolina. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, man, they didn't sound too happy about not getting the ball too much at the end of the game.
It's interesting, man. A lot of these teams at the top, both the AFC and NFC, they've got really good defenses, but their offenses are sort of, they're not the top of the league anymore. Chiefs, Eagles. Although Lions, I'll say Lions are up there. I think they're probably the team of old. They're pretty good.
They're boat racing, man. They got such a good running game. That's going to be the interesting part.
They've got such good everything.
Yeah, I know.
Dan Campbell, man. Dan Campbell might be my favorite coach of all time. He is the man.
It's cool what they're building over there. I do enjoy watching them, and I am rooting from afar. But when the time comes, it's time to get rolled over like they did in the bank last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. If it's Ravens-Lions Super Bowl, no question.
yeah.
Sorry, Dan. You can win it.
The affair is over.
When you go against the Steelers or someone else.
I will deny it never happened. Yeah.
We're getting way ahead of ourselves. Yeah. I guess that we can end it on that before we go into bold and score predictions. How are we feeling? 4 games left to go in the year. The Ravens don't have to win out, but it's certainly looking like that's their best opportunity. And then once you're in the playoffs, obviously, you can't lose anymore. How we feel based on preseason thoughts of this team's ceiling.
A little extra on offense, maybe a little less on defense. I think they're trending in a good direction. Yeah, I don't know. They're about right where they are. I'm a little disappointed by the losses. They lost some games they just didn't have any excuse losing, and that's just those always sting. But they happen every year. It seems like a thing you have to just get over with this team. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. They're just okay. They need to do some work in the last couple games to make me feel a little more confident going into the postseason. Because right now I just don't have, the confidence that they can win dirty games. And I think that's the sad thing. They've had comebacks. Don't get me wrong, but the comebacks, it's like the offense is starting to click, and then they seem unstoppable. You know what I mean? I want them to struggle through a whole game and still win. I don't know if we've seen that.
Yeah, I was gonna say from my side, I think the uncertainty on special teams, I think right now is just my biggest concern. I feel like the offense is fine. They're an offense that I think that they can get hot at the end, and they can put up a lot of points. Defense definitely trending in the right direction. I like what we're seeing there, but special teams right now we talked about the Eagles game. Just you can't rely on Tucker anymore. And even with Stout, some games he's really good, some games he's not. And exactly in these games that we're talking about, Alec, when you need to play close and stuff like that, special teams is still a huge part of it. And, it feels like that's been the difference in a lot of games. So that's really the only thing right now that's kind of holding me back. But, we'll see what happens with the bye. We'll see if that, ends up helping out Tucker a little bit, see if he can regain a little bit more of that form. But yeah, I think that's the biggest wild card for me.
Alec, I think you put into words what I've been trying to figure out how to put into words for some time now. Yeah, it's so interesting because for so long, this team has been able to win the ugly games, but not the comebacks consistently, right? And this year, consistently, the comebacks have been there, but I mean, you're right. Every game on this schedule that you could characterize as an ugly game, there's 5 of them, and they're all losses.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these wins, and I'm trying to see if there's any of them that I could characterize as an ugly win. And I mean, honestly, I can't. The closest, I guess, would be the Washington game, but maybe that's only because Lamar had 1 touchdown pass. I know it took him. I think that game was close at halftime, and but I don't really think I'd call that an ugly.
It wasn't
win.
close. The only reason I know that is because me and Alex just kept messing with KJ, and we were getting a lot more on him than he got on us.
Yeah, 17-10. This is probably why I thought it was close at halftime, because it was tied until 53 seconds to go in the half.
Mm.
The Ravens pulled ahead. Mark Andrews touchdown, 53 seconds to go. So, yeah, the grinded out, ugly games, defensive, running oriented games that the Ravens have done so well in the past just haven't come to be wins this year. And maybe this is the year that Lamar can just run over everyone and route to a Super Bowl trophy. That's possible, I guess. But I mean, even the greatest show on turf had to win that ugly game against the Bucs in the NFC Championship game, to get their trophy. So they can do it. We know they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to see them do it.
Got to see them do it. They're a 14-point favorite with an over-under of 43.5. So, for my bold prediction, I'm going to say that Henry scores 3 running touchdowns. I think he's going to be a little vulture. And he'll just use him a lot. He'll get a lot of points in fantasy, and that'll be good. As for the score prediction, I'm going to say they score 35 points. Hopefully Lamar is pulled early, and it's a 0 spot. I'm going to say they don't score. I think it's just I want it to be the thing. So there you go.
Well, Chris now needs to go because Alec took both the decisions for a bold prediction. So
Oh no!
In one swell swoop.
Oh no! I'm
Jeez.
so sorry.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah, I'll go. I feel like this feels like a parlay game. So I guess I'm gonna parlay into this. I'm gonna say Ravens get 5 sacks and 2 picks.
Oof. All right.
I'm hoping like Wiggins and Marlowe, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. But anyway, I'll do those 2 legs of my parlay for my bold prediction. Score prediction. As much as I want them to get the goose egg, man, it's so hard to do that. I'll say 38-3, basically 35-0. I feel like they get the field goal in there.
Man, yeah. This should be an easy game for the Ravens to win, and if they don't win it, there's no analysis that I can give here to tell you why it would happen, because it would be because of things that we don't have access to. Coaching issue, locker room issue. If the Ravens come out here and play focused football, they'll win easily, right? 34-6. That's my prediction. My bold prediction was going to be that the Ravens, hold the Giants to single digits, which would be the first time they've held a team. No, wait, that's not true. No, it is true. It is true. Yeah, first time they've held a team to single digits this year. But since Alec had to go for the goose egg in his bold prediction, I'll have to taper off that. So I guess I'll add to Derrick Henry parlay then. I am also picking a massive game for Henry. So I'll stick to that. He's going to hit 250 in this game.
Oh, man.
I was thinking about holding off on that because I'm like, well, if the Ravens get a big, maybe they're going to rest him, but he might get that in 10 carries. I mean, this Giants rushing defense is not good. And Derrick Henry's going to be rested. It's going to be cold. Look, this is a great opportunity for a lot of yards for Henry. And, I don't know if he cares about the rushing title, but he needs to pick up some to catch Saquon. So this is a great opportunity. And we'll see if it happens. But, man, he should have a massive day on Sunday.
Yeah, he really needs to make up some ground. The Eagles played the Giants again too last week of the season. So he's probably going to get like another 200 then. Although actually no, if they have the 2 seed wrapped up and they can't get the 1, maybe they might rest him. I don't know. But just feels unfair, man. Just looking at this Giants team, their rushing defense, and just like, man, Eagles, Saquon gets to play him twice a year. Come on.
Yeah, that division's been not the best for a while, but now it's a different collection of teams down there. So, anything else, guys?
Hope this is the start of the Ravens not losing another game this year.
That'd be cool. That'd be such a neat thing. And I think we mean the whole season year, not 2024. We have a little bit.
Season year is what I meant. Thank you for that. That correction.
Perfect.
Both is great. Both is great.
Both is good. Yeah, it's a good start either way. You can find us on Blue Sky at WoodWinningPod.com. You can find us on YouTube. Maybe you're there right now. Leave a comment. Give us a like. Subscribe. Why not? It's free. And we'll see you after what is hopefully a big win against the Giants. Go Ravens.